I want to start off with the story of your daughter that you told me earlier, the tragic incident that happened with her, and how that led you on your journey. Because this is volume one of KeMedicine here, and I want to make sure we lay down that groundwork. So go ahead and tell us that story like you told it to me earlier.
Wow, that's probably not possible, but I can. But I can tell, I can tell you guys the story, the Dr. EnQi story. So people familiar with me, they've heard this 1,000 times, but it's my inception. It's my coming out of the closet. It's my creation. I always been. I guess when I was little, I was into like magic, stuff like that. From there, it's only so many card tricks you can try if you're bad at magic. I wasn't good at magic. I liked it, but I wasn't good at it. So, that kind of segued me over to like mixing baking soda with peroxide and bleach and ammonia and, trying to do some experiments at the house and, just messing around, just getting into. And so I really realized, okay, it's not so much the magic. I like the mystery. I like science. I like the figuring out the mystery. And so early on, just fell in love with science and personalized science, like science that made sense, not the way it's taught in school, because that wasn't fun. I was asleep with everybody else. But at home, I would watch 3-2-1 Contact and read, and do my own thing. Um, that stuck with me. So, I was always into the health, but not in like a sharing kind of way, like just going for self kind of, yeah, this is all about me. This is my nerdy private, And so fast forward, I'm at work one day selling phones at Verizon in Bay Plaza. I don't even know if Bay Plaza or the Verizon store in Bay Plaza still exists, but I was up there selling phones. And somewhere around, I want to say like 7-ish, something like that, maybe 8-ish, something like that, maybe 7, 8 o'clock. I get the phone call that my daughter was ran over by a car, right? This is not something that you can prepare for, you know, being from the Bronx, seeing all the things I saw, that just was something I wasn't prepared for. So, I walk off the job, go to the hospital, and get to the hospital, and the doctor's like, my daughter's name is Amber, her mother's Crystal. Crystal's whole family is there. And they're all like crying and doing the consoling each other kind of thing. My family is out of state, all around the place, So none of my people's is there. It's just her people, and they all kind of consoling each other and like reconciling whatever the doctor told them. I don't know. I'm getting to the spot late, so when I get there, I'm kind of going crazy on her. Like, what was she even doing in the street by herself? Like, why was my kids in this? Where was you at? So I'm arguing with Crystal. Like, where was you at? Like, black folks, look, don't judge me. I'm working on me every day, trying to get me together. But this is what's going on in the middle of the panic and the craziness, right? So I'm like, where's the doctor? How soon can we get out of here? What's the deal? And so the doctor comes, pulls me to the side. I already know this is going downhill quickly. I haven't seen her yet. Doctor come talk to me. He want to pull me to the side before letting me see her. And he's like, listen, you know, with the injuries that she sustained, her neck and spine are broken in 3 places. Her pelvis and hips are crushed. Her left leg's crushed. Her left foot's crushed. She's not going to make it through the night.
And how old was she?
She was about 4 years old, 5 years old.
Damn.
Yeah. She was about 4 or 5 years old. And so they're like, she's not going to make it through the night. This is, so, we just want to, be here for you any kind of way possible. I just cut him off immediately, like, bro, let me just stop you right there. Pack my daughter up, put her back in the ambulance. We're going to a different hospital. So he's like, no, that's not possible. Why would you want to go to a different hospital? We told you, I just gave you the prognosis. Like, I'm like, I heard what you said, but yeah, we're going to a different hospital. We're not, and he's like, well, she's not going to survive a ride to another hospital. Her condition, she's in too bad of a condition. She's not even going to survive the ride to another hospital. So, I'm beefing with him, telling him to do what I say. Crystal is going along with him. And now I'm screaming at her, like, why are you listening to him? He said Amber's dying here tonight. So if we stay here, she's going to die tonight because they're not even doing nothing. When he come out and tell us this is a reflection of what they got, what their program is. So they done already went on to the people, whoever they think they can save. She's over here. She's wherever she at. Get my baby from being put to the side. Is she still alive right now? Okay, good. Put her on an ambulance. We need to get her somewhere where they ready to scrap because I'm ready to fight. Like, yeah, get me. So eventually, I'm an unstoppable force in the hospital. And so, yeah, they put her on an ambulance and, get us up out of there. And we was going to one hospital. And before we even got there, redirected them to Columbia Hospital, which at the time, they was like the number one in pediatric trauma in the Northeast. The guy named Dr. Lee, crazy Chinese doctor, as we talk about the Chinese folks.
China.
Right. And if it wasn't for Dr. Lee, I feel like I owe Dr. Lee. You know what I'm saying? Because I definitely quarterback some stuff, but if his mind wasn't open, and I think it's a cultural thing. If his mind wasn't open to the stuff I was talking about and doing, he probably would have had me removed. Like if it had been a white guy in there, he probably would have had me removed and banned. Like I wouldn't have been able to have run through there like how I was in there moving around. But so we wind up making it to the hospital, and when we got there, they was able to stabilize her and say, if she makes it through the night, she'll probably live, but she'll definitely never walk again. She'll probably live, but she'll definitely never walk again. And so I'm excited about that. I was like, okay, we lit. Like now I'm looking at her mama like, I told you, you listen to me. Don't you listen, I got this. We cooking now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the doctors, I think they was a little confused because they like, we just told you that your daughter might die tonight, but if she makes it to the morning, she'll never ever walk again. We've never seen anybody excited about that. I'm like, well, see, here's the thing. At the last hospital, I just had to fight to get her here. And the last hospital we was at, yeah, they said she was definitely going to die. And so, yeah, you're telling me chance is like 60% chance that she might make it through the night. And if she does, we in the clear, she'll never walk again. But I'm like, yeah, this was a 360-degree turnaround from, and so, that the accident happened August 28th. By February or March, I had her like back in school, with her friends. She had a wicked limp, but she was, back in school within, a matter of months.
So what was it when you said you was talking to him, you was coaching them through? What was it that you were saying to the doctor? How were you quarterbacking? What methods were you implementing?
Okay, so a lot of love and a lot of prayer. Let me say that, number one. Love and prayer, number one. I was like off rip, first off so she's in the ICU, right? And in the ICU, I'm limited to what I could do and whatnot. So the first day or two, we're in the ICU. I'm watching children that had better prognosis than my daughter pass away in the ICU. So that's tough to watch, and I'm like empathic. So I'm like, it's hurting. Like it was rough on my soul to watch babies die in the ICU. Like that was rough for me. You know what I'm saying? Especially I gotta like, you know what I'm saying? And then you kind of like develop 5-minute friendships with people because you might look across the room, you see a dad, y'all got that dad, and then his baby might pass away, and it's just like, that it was rough to be in there, right? But I dipped home, right? I dipped home and I went in my kitchen and I started mixing up some stuff in my kitchen. Now, mind you, I don't have any certifications or anything, I'm a cell phone salesman from Verizon and Bay Plaza. You know what I'm saying? I just walked off my job. But I have 10 years of studying plants, and, I have a mind full of, Kemetic mythology. And so the doctors are saying that her spine is broken, her neck is broken, she'll never walk again. But in my mind, I got a lot of this Jed Pillar. And, I laugh about it now because it was me against the world, literally. The lawyer told Crystal that because I guess the doctors were complaining. So when the doctors were coming to like get blood and stuff like that, I wasn't really letting them get blood all the time. Like I would let them take blood maybe every few hours, but they were like coming to get blood a lot. And I was like, whoa, bro, nah, you just got blood at 12 o'clock. It's 1:30. Trust me, none of the values have changed. You're killing me right now. You know what I'm saying? So and so I guess the doctors were complaining to Dr. Lee, and Dr. Lee, I guess maybe he communicated that to the lawyer, and the lawyer's telling Crystal, if I don't let the doctors do whatever they want to do, we're not going to be able to get money. So now me and her is arguing in the place. I'm like, yo, I don't care if we never get a dime for this. I just want my baby back and woo woo. And I'm trying to argue with her as now I'm trying to argue with the people in there. Like, if you keep taking blood, it's not possible for her bones to heal. Like it's, you because your body got to process, you know what I'm saying? Your blood got to be adequate in order for bone to start building. Like you can't put the cart before the horse. The blood is the most important thing. So the body is designed to sacrifice everything for blood, period. So it's not until the blood is straight, ma'at, balanced, that other stuff, tissues and bones can start to heal and build and whatever the case may be. So I was, extra guarded of that. And I didn't know they had cameras in the ICU. I didn't know they had cameras in the ICU. So I didn't think anybody saw me, dropping my little drops in Amber's mouth. The reason why Mama Atomics is a liquid, because, she's hooked up to machines and all that. So in my mind, the only way I could give her whatever I want to give her is sublingual. So I made a little liquid, a little green liquid, swage, my mind is, full of mythology mixed with, whatever I know about the body. And so this may have went on for a few days, 4 or 5 days or so, maybe. And eventually Dr. Lee invites me down to his office, and I'm thinking, okay, it's my turn. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had a few blow-ups in the ICU, and the security escorted her mama out because they like, yo, you've been here the whole time, so we know you. So it's not like we choosing your side. It's just she hasn't been here, so we just gonna remove the other party. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking in my mind, okay, well maybe it's time I get in trouble because she didn't got in trouble a few times. So I go down to the office, and it's a couple doctors on this side, and they got the little clipboards. It's a couple more doctors on this side. Dr. Lee sitting behind the desk, and I come in there, and he's like, why aren't you letting our doctors, why aren't you letting our doctors and our staff do what they need to do, to try to heal your daughter? And I'm like, well, I'm not really stopping them. The only thing I'm stopping is, you know, so many taking blood like every, what are you taking blood like every hour? Like, how much blood you need? Like, it just doesn't even make any sense. Plus, I know you only need a little pinch to figure out, you put that thing in the spin machine and, like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? So, he chuckled a little bit and he was like, okay, well, why are you stopping them from doing that though? Do you think that's hindering her recovery? I said, of course it is, because, the blood has to build in order, to start translating the minerals and stuff like that to the bone. And, he was like, well, what's up with the IV? Because I made them switch, there's different types of IV bags, so I was like, I need the IV heavy mineral, I wanted the one with the heavy mineral and sugar, you know. And so he's asking me, he's like, yo, so, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, I sell phones at the Verizon store. And he's like, no, 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 no. Like, where did you go to medical school? Like, I'm like, medical school? I ain't going to medical school. I work at the cell phone store. Like, he's like, well, what is that stuff that you've been dripping? We see you on the camera. I was like, camera? I got cameras in there? He was like, yeah, we got you on camera. You dripping something in her mouth. You're like, what is that? What is that stuff? I was like, well, it's something I made at the house. It's got some plant-based, And he was like, oh, herbs? You know about herbs? I was like, yeah, it's got some herbs in there to, speed recovery and help the vertebrae. And, he was like, well, I'm gonna be honest with you. We're playing along with this because, whatever it is that you got going on, she seems to be healing, at an exceptionally fast rate. And so, we don't, we would have probably kicked you out of here a while ago, but, we're kind of interested in seeing how this goes because we haven't seen anything like this before. We haven't seen any parents like you before, and then whatever that stuff is that you're dripping, you're dripping in her mouth. Like we think that's working. So we don't want to stop you from, the liability is on you. If it goes wrong, we got you on camera. But so she wound up being transferred out of ICU, and it worked out. It worked out, and from there, because it was such a big thing, like because me and Crystal had went at it, and then I guess girls being girl or women being women, I guess she's this. I'm in the hospital. I'm in the ICU. I'm not in communication with nobody. I'm in the hospital. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm locked into a mantra type constant prayer. Like I'm super prayed up. So I'm not talking to nobody but God at this time. So I don't know what's going on. Well, once she gets moved out of ICU, I could kind of like, man, I wonder if I'm fired. I walked off my job and haven't looked back. You know what I'm saying? I'm probably certain I'm fired. You know what I'm saying? We'll figure this out. But the whole family, and everybody, even my friends, they was against me. They're like, yo, you're gonna mess that girl up. What are you doing? You're not a doctor. Why is you stopping the doctors? At least you could let the lawyers try to get y'all a few dollars. And it just there was, and the reason I can laugh at it now is because I would have to agree if I was one of them back then, because there was nothing to indicate that I knew what I was talking about. I couldn't even articulate myself in a way that would make anyone like, so now when I look back at them, like, yeah, they was, even Crystal, like she was right to try to, like, you don't know what you're doing, bro. What are you doing? You sell phones. What are you doing? You can't heal spine. The people trained to heal spine said you can't heal this. Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? But I think in hindsight, not even thinking hindsight, just the way I view life, I know everything was by design. So even now with what we're doing with our books and programs and what it is that we're trying to, how we're trying to, educate folks and raise awareness, it started there. Not just me, but my awareness of the whole hospital situation. So for people that don't know.
Now we got to get into the other story where the dude came to you about his mama and he's a politician.
Oh, okay. We can get into Rob. Yeah, I know exactly.
We got to talk about the Rob story too.
Yeah. So before we get to Rob though, so because this is such a big deal, when it goes my way, and we get Amber out the hospital, 5-6 months later, she's back moving around again. Everything that they said would never be able to happen, people are starting to gravitate to me and ask me stuff. Hey, do you know anything about this? I got some stuff on my toe here. You know how I can help, like my auntie, she got diabetes, and what do you know about, can you help out with that? And so I never I didn't set out in my mind to be a herb guy or to be in health, or like, this was the furthest thing from my plans. This just happened from that scenario, and then word spreading about that scenario, people started to gravitate and ask me, and I would just offer advice like, oh, well, why don't you try these herbs, or and then people start slowly but surely, some folks being lazy, some folks being uneducated in the space. They're like, oh, can I just give you the money and then you go get the herbs from me? And then so that's eventually that grows into me starting to have extra herbs around. Like, all right, well.
Yeah, in the IB, where the post they lie, electron spin, got a rhythm to survive.